All right. Welcome back to In the Harbor, where we sit at the intersection of sports, leisure, and finance. And Scott, today we're talking travel, but not in the book it online and hope for the best sense.
Absolutely not. This episode today is going to help highlight how travel has evolved from a transaction to a strategy. Experiences, access, risk management, all the things people don't think about when they hear the words travel agent.
Exactly. Our guest today has spent decades building and scaling sales organizations, working with brands like Marriott early on, and now she's leading one of the most influential platforms supporting modern travel advisors.
Today we're joined by Jenn Lee, president of Travel Planners International, and this conversation really reframed how we think about the business of travel and why the best advisors are more relevant than ever.
Whether you're planning your next trip, building a client-facing business, or just curious where travel trends are heading, this one's for you.
Let's get into it.
Jenn, welcome to the harbor. We're happy to have you. How are you today?
I am excellent. I'm really excited to be part and be in the harbor with y'all. Thank you for the invite.
I think we're going to have a great conversation, and it's something everyone's familiar with. I mean, everyone looks at travel, aspires to travel to new places, so I think this will be fantastic.
Absolutely. Let's get it started. I could talk all day about travel.
Perfect. That's exactly what we're going to do. I think 4 or 5 hours.
Let's do it. I've got water.
We'll give you your day back. So let's get into it. Let's just hear a little bit about your career arc, where you started, kind of what you did throughout the career, and then what led you back into travel.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. You know, it's interesting. I started my career in travel very haphazardly. I was approached by a gentleman in Lakeland, Florida. I was working at a grocery store, and he came to me and said, "Hey, Jenn, my company was just purchased by a hotel chain, and they are looking for someone to call their Marriott Marquis members and invite them to something called timeshare. Are you familiar with timeshare?" And growing up in Orlando, I knew exactly what timeshare was. And so I was the very first employee to jump on the phone, calling Marquis members, inviting them to timeshare. And Marriott was the first hotel chain to jump into what they now refer to as the Vacation Club experience. So from there, got married, had a child, moved around, made some bad choices in life, like who doesn't in their 20s, and went through a variety of different careers all around marketing, sales, training, really connecting consumers to products. And about 11 years ago, I ended up back in the travel industry through my consulting practice. So I've always worked with entrepreneurs or even intrapreneurs, those that work within an organization that want to treat their cubicle, their space as an entrepreneur. But I really love that entrepreneurial spirit of, I've got an idea, I can solve a problem, let's go. So yeah, now I am in the travel advisor space. In the travel industry, and I couldn't be happier. And this is where I will retire. So began my career in travel, and I'm now ending my career in travel in about 10 years.
Oh, funny how you found your way back. It must be a true passion.
Yes.
And I like the entrepreneur line. You know, most of our audience are financial advisors, and they see themselves in a very similar way.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you work for somebody else, like as an employee or a franchise or a contractor or what have you. You've got to own your space. And folks that have that mentality all share very similar characteristics. And those characteristics are very much in line with solving problems, consultative. They really want to master what they're naturally good at, passionate for, and most need guidance along the way. And that's really where I spent the majority of my career, is paying attention to what their needs were and then matching it with what the consumer needs are, what the public needs, what are the problems that can be solved by that entrepreneur or that intrapreneur who's really taking ownership of their area. And I love it. It's exciting. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of really passionate people, especially in the financial. Y'all have the very similar passion, which is to help people, gain the most out of their hard work, right? Whether it be leveraging the money that they're making to ensure that they've got a comfortable future, a comfortable current, and then really just leveraging that hard work, doing something, maximizing their life, maximizing that life experience. And that's what travel does. better than anything.
Absolutely. So, I'm curious if now you're president of Travel Planners International and Vacation Planners, as well as chief marketing officer. So, did that early stint with Marriott teach you anything about brand loyalty or what that means?
Great question. 100%. When we talk to travel advisors now and they talk about trying to connect with influencers or, how do I grow my business? How do I grow my sphere of influence? I always share with them, I say, you have to ask yourself the question, who already has a relationship with my next best customer? Because when somebody already has loyalty and a relationship with them, they want to expand their reach within that individual's life. And so if you go back, what I learned from Marriott was Marriott said, we already have a relationship with people, with millions of individuals. They trust our brand because they either go on vacation or business or just an overnighter through our product. What else is it that that my customer, what else are they experiencing in their life where I could possibly be part of that story? And that's where loyalty really starts to stick. When you when you as a brand are able to become part of somebody's overall story, you're not just selling a product, you're not just selling a specific service, you are now part of their story. And that's really where loyalty wins, because quite frankly, people can usually get things less expensively somewhere else. They can find a better deal. They can find someone who's nicer to them for a short period of time. But when you're really ingrained in someone's life and you become part of it, and then they are proud. I'm a Delta Airlines person, so I'm Delta proud all day long. They've really ingrained themselves in me. It doesn't matter if they mess up. I'm loyal to them because they've been a big part of my joy in travel from an airline perspective. And so if they tell me to connect with Uber, I'm going to connect with Uber. If they tell me to stay at a Hilton, I'm going to stay at a Hilton, because not only am I getting the points, but I know that they're taking good care of me. Really long answer to that very short question, but yes, it immediately taught me, if you've already got a relationship with somebody, how can you leverage that relationship and maximize and add additional value into their lives? And that's what really good brands do. They become part of your life, your infrastructure of your life.
It's funny when I think about my own experience being Delta loyal and then flying like American, and I'm like, this is awful.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
And you feel like you're cheating. Like, I'm so sorry, Delta, but you don't fly to Providence straight from the Dominican Republic, which Scott knows I just had to do not too long ago. And I had to fly American. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not going to be good. But it was actually okay.
Well,
but
it worked out better than our not direct flight on Delta that we spent an extra night sleeping in the airport in Atlanta. So in that instance, I think you won out.
I know, I did. But I think I know for sure that was the first time I had experienced a brand that really branched out. And you see it in almost every industry. If you look in the clothing industry, they might have started out as Gap, but then they realized that, their customer also wanted something that was less expensive. So they opened up Old Navy, and then they realized their customer wanted something that was more business focused. So they opened up Banana Republic. I don't know if that's their true story, but that's how I look at it. Those are three different brands, all owned by the same people that I know I can trust. So when I see multiple brands from the same, entity, there's an automatic trust factor there.
So from your time at Marriott and obviously your background experience as you transitioned back into travel, what was it about TPI that drew you in? And then when you got there, what were some of the familiar things that you saw going on at TPI?
The passion for the entrepreneur. Ken Gagliano, who's one of the owners, said to me, your job or our job here at TPI is to help the individual advisor who's working from home look like a $1 million rock star. We provide them with services and technology and training and access and support, things that they couldn't get on their own. But that was the very first thing he said. Second was, it's a relationship business. This is really, you're developing a relationship with an individual who has launched a business, a passion project that they're trying to make profitable, which many do. Many make lots of money in the travel industry. It is a very well-paid profession if you're dedicated and you make good decisions. This is a relationship business. And if you can master that relationship and provide them that service in a unique way individually, then we're going to be successful. And I'm really proud of what we've accomplished just in the last 10 years, 11 years. When I came into the industry, I remember that the travel advisor had been around for a really long time, but they were referred to in this particular venue as ICs, like, oh, they're independent contractors, there's ICs, they're home based, like as if they were, homebound with ankle bracelets that beeped when they left the dining room table, like they were allowed to escape. So it was like, no, that's not what they are. They're entrepreneurs. And over the last 10 years, through a lot of yelling and screaming, not just from myself, but from others and from really smart individuals entering into the industry, it has now become a profession that people are starting to understand and want to get into, because travel's been around a long time. Travel advisors have been around a long time. They used to be called travel agents. Now they're called advisors because of their consultative process. But yeah, I mean, when I came in, that's what really got me excited. And I closed my small business consulting practice down and said, I can either impact, the 100 clients that I'll have this year, or I can impact tens of thousands of independent business owners across an entire industry. And so haven't looked back.
It is amazing. And we've talked a little bit about the parallels between what we do in our world with financial advisors and in the asset management industry in your world. A couple things that you just said, tie those in again. One, it's a relationship business. We always joke, knee to knee, face to face, getting in front of people, having that deeper connection. But you use the word trust a couple times. And that's one of the things that we talk about with advisors is no one just wants to be the financial advisor. They want to be the trusted advisor. Right. And I see that similarity at TPI, which is a little deeper, right? Getting down in under that, just the parallels continue. I'm sure I'll have a few more to highlight as we roll through.
Well, sure. And in the financial services world, people are trusting you with their money, right? With what they've earned, and they are looking for guidance from you to be able to meet goals later on in life. I know I do that with my financial advisor, and they ask questions that you don't normally ask yourself. And I think that's also another thing about travel and the advisor role is the advisor is there to ask questions you wouldn't know to ask yourself. And I'm not talking about, do you need 2 queen beds or a king bed? Do you want a balcony or a suite? They're asking questions that are more emotionally motivated because people buy on emotion and justify logically. And so it's not about the bits and bytes, right? It's about, the hugs and kisses, it's about really getting in there and understanding. And when you experience a really great financial services person or asset management person who cares about you and takes the time to ask those questions and get you thinking, you're immediately going to connect with that person because they know, I know as the consumer, the customer, that you have my best interest in mind. You're not asking me questions that are with your best interest in mind. And really, that's how you develop a relationship and a trust. Build rapport, gain trust, ask questions, connect. Connectivity.
I would agree, and I would say a similar parallel is the travel advisor is likely dealing with a couple or a family, and they might not know exactly what they're looking for. They might be looking for something completely different, and it probably helps
Jason,
them have the conversation with each other about what each one wants and what they're willing to sacrifice.
Sure. It kind of starts, the smartest advisors start with questions that are similar to like, what's motivating you to call me about Alaska versus, tell me, are you celebrating something special, during this trip? That's not what's motivating you to ask me about Alaska. You're going to get the real story. Well, my dad has always wanted to go to Alaska and he's getting up in age and we think this might be his last big trip. So we want to make sure this trip to Alaska, which he's always wanted, is not only just checked off his list, but that it's curated in a way that takes into consideration his age, his mobility, the very specific things that are exciting to him on paper about Alaska. How can we bring those to life versus a salesperson or a travel agent would be like, give me the dates, what's your budget? They're asking all those logical questions. Again, a similarity to what y'all do in your industry. You don't say, how much money do you want at the end? What year do you want to retire and how much money do you want? I'm assuming you ask other questions. I know mine did. Asked other questions that met my goals, like really helped me think about it. And then, Jason, in this case, with travel advisors, what they want, what a couple wants in October when they're in their 30s can be completely different than what the wife wants the next vacation with her girlfriends. They might travel completely differently. So it's not a one size fits all. I know they always want to stay at this type of resort because it changes based on what the scenario is. And how often do we utilize travel as a way to connect with our loved ones or to meet new people or to escape completely? I mean, we get to say all of it. Travel does, like, it meets all those needs in various ways. And so you have to ask those questions every single time. You have to really understand the story every single time. That's what a travel advisor does. They're not, glorified Google. They're not glorified booking engines. That's not what they do at all.
No, the best advisors, regardless of industry, have one key trait, right? And you touched on it, and it's their ability to get to the need behind the need, right? Ask more questions, develop a little bit more depth, right? I think a lot of people, when they get into any type of role of that, they get the first answer and they jump all over it versus, tell me more. Tell me a little bit, because it's always that third or fourth thing a little bit further down the line that the light bulb goes off and people start to realize.
Scott, so true. Until you have a really clear picture, you haven't asked enough questions.
Correct.
Right.
You have to,
the old adage, be curious.
100%.
That definitely applies. Now, you said something interesting earlier. So this was 10 or 12 years ago, and you were talking about the idea of work from home, and it had a negative connotation, and now post-COVID, it has a much different connotation. And
it does. What happened in the travel industry, for those that are listening that, are still saying that travel advisors still exist. Like, I'm sure there's somebody listening, like, I didn't even know there were travel advisors. There have been travel advisors for like 100 years. What happened, Jason, was when the airlines decided not to pay commission on airfare any longer, that's what the majority of the travel advisor made money off of. So a lot of them had to close down their brick and mortar. Do y'all in your neighborhood, and maybe you do still to this day, but do you remember there used to be travel agencies in your neighborhood? They had like the red awning, and then you'd see all the flyers in the window.
Right,
and
and
you'd walk in.
brick and mortar location, you have all the pamphlets you go through.
Yep. There was an expected consumer experience. The consumer had an assumption of a consumer experience that felt comfortable to them. You walk in, maybe a little bell rang on the door because somebody was in the back mimeographing something. Boy, I'm really showing my age. Mimeographing something, and there were all the brochures, and you would sit down and you would sit with an advisor, and they would ask you all those questions. So fast forward when the airline stopped paying commissions, those brick and mortars went away. And when that happened, a lot of travel agencies went out of business. Those that stayed in business, right, were able to maintain their client base and keep that exposure up. But that took like 20 years for a lot of the consumers to realize advisors still existed, because they couldn't physically see them because there's not that physical awning that says Joe's Travel, right? So that's our challenge now, is helping people see that. And so when people went home, they were like, oh, they're not a real travel agent, right? They're passing out a business card. They would, back in the day, Scott, I'm not sure if you remember, if Michelle remembers, people would pass out business cards and say, just book your travel through my website. Like, there was no consultation. That has changed over the last 10 years. Now it's gone back to, okay, I get it. This is a service that's being provided that's curating the right experience for myself or my family or my friends. Did I answer your question? I just realized I went off a tangent. I tend to.
I think somewhere in there was the answer for sure.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for giving me positive affirmation.
But the one thing I was going to add on that is, work from home has changed a bit, but also travel has changed a lot in the post-COVID era. So I was curious about what you've seen and how it ties into work from home, about what people are looking for.
So people, when they're a couple of things. There's like 5 or 6 things, quite frankly. Post-COVID, a lot of people are able to work remote, right? Which means they have a more flexible schedule. We're seeing a lot of folks traveling while they're working, right? We see a lot of folks that take their kids out of school and homeschool them through the world, right? The kids now are with them and they're traveling. Somebody's got a remote job. They know to log in for their 8 hours. And then after people in RVs traveling the United States or flying over to Australia and staying over there for months at a time and just traveling around because they can work remote. We're starting to see folks that they don't think it's so weird that somebody's working from home any longer. They're like, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. Where can we meet? So that stigma has gone away. We're also, from a consumer standpoint, everyone thought revenge travel was going to peak, and revenge travel did peak because we really missed each other and we missed traveling. But what's happened is through the pandemic, I can only speak for Americans, but through the pandemic, Americans have said no longer is the things in my home the most important purchase. I was in my home too long, right? Like the big screen TV, how much bigger does it need to be? Now they're like, I want to reconnect with the world. I want to reconnect. I want to escape my home if necessary. A lot of solo travel is huge. People who are married, happily married, or have a spouse but want to travel by themselves. Like they want to just get out and travel by themselves. So post-pandemic, we really recognize the importance of connection with one another. And I don't think we'll ever go back. It's not a revenge travel thing. It's not like I've got all this pent up need to get out of the house. It's, I really like being out of the house. I like meeting other people. I'm curious about what's going on in the world. I want to know more about that and let that be my lecture versus the news. I was during the COVID, I always said, turn off the news and just book a cruise, right? Like just get off the news. And instead, let's reconnect with one another.
So as part of that, Jen, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off if you needed to finish a thought. Talk a little bit about how, what you kind of touched on it, but vacation has become much more about experience.
Yes.
And having experience and shared experiences, right? Which I think is a little bit of a shift from the marketing side. So maybe talk a little bit about what TPI is seeing and how you guys are handling that.
Yeah, every year there's definitely new trends that are coming out. And I'm not a big believer in the word trend, but I think it's more of an awakening. Like right now, there was a time where Ancestry.com first came out and Life 365 or whatever that other one is called. I can't remember. 123. I can't remember the name of it. But everyone wanted to do an ancestry travel, right? They wanted to go back and see their roots from their great, great, great grandparents in Italy and Germany. So ancestry travel, really getting to our roots, was really big. Now we're starting to see nostalgic travel where people are wanting to go back to places that they traveled to maybe as a child, or they're finding pictures in their parents' homes. My father-in-law just passed away a couple of years ago, and we purchased the family home in Alabama, and I'm unearthing vacation pictures or pictures where they did things, and I want to go to those locations and feel what they felt at the time. So nostalgic travel is out there. Wellness travel, and it's way past yoga at this point, right? It's not Reiki and yoga, but wellness is disconnect. I need to find a place where I don't have Wi-Fi access. Like you have to force me. You need to send me someplace where there is no Wi-Fi so that I can't get online. A true disconnect. That's why transatlantic cruises are really popular, even though they have Wi-Fi. But transatlantic is really popular because there's no stops. Right? All you're doing is just sleeping until you wake up, and you're enjoying the shows, or you're listening to a lecturer, or you're playing, chess with a new friend. That's why cruising is so popular, because you get a chance to kind of curate your own experience on board every single day. So it's really that curation of a unique experience to you. A lot of the land vacations now, guided vacations, are becoming popular again, where it's maybe 20 people traveling together and they're going to go truffle hunting together. And it's curated through a travel advisor and maybe a tour operator that puts something together that you couldn't experience on your own. You might be able to Google it on Instagram and go there, but you can't get into that place. You can't hire the dog to go truffle hunting with you. You can't get those experiences. So it's all those unique experiences and immersive experiences that people are really craving these days, and really hyper personalized to their very specific desires of what that experience is.
Well,
that's what we're seeing.
And I think that translates nicely into the role of the modern travel advisor and what they provide. Like if we even think back to the genealogical trips or ancestry trips, or even, the truffle hunting, Like, imagine how daunting that would be to set out and plan on your own when you have no familiarity. Like, say you're going to Denmark and you know nothing. Like, imagine all the blogs you're going to read, what you're going to get wrong, the stress that goes along with that, and then the absolute spending of time trying to facilitate it on your own. Like, you really need help.
Right. And how disappointing is that when you come back and then you read the follow-up blog and you didn't go to that one castle that that new place, or you didn't go to the one, pub that so-and-so read his first published book in, right? Because you didn't know about it, because you don't know to Google that, because you didn't know that would be of interest to you until you got there, and now it's too late. And so now you got to go back again, right? So the wasted time, the effort. And Jason, you just said something. We see a lot of people are like, I like doing my research. Great, do your research. Let's work together. Travel advisors work with you. But why are you on your vacation working? Like making sure the family gets on the train on time, making sure that the bags make it. And what if they don't make it? What's the next step? All these things, because I don't know. Well, Scott, you just talked about it. Travel, has a lot of components to it that can go wrong. And so the advisor is the one that sets you up for success, right? With some redundancies there in many cases, and also tracking along the way. And if something does go wrong, which invariably it does, airspace just got closed down over Puerto Rico. If you booked your travel on Expedia, there's nobody to call to get you rebooked and to guide you along the way. I mean, stuff happens all the time. Or maybe you want to extend your stay because you're having a great time and you don't know how to, make that happen at that resort. You don't know how to make the change with the airline. These are things that are customized to the consumer, to the traveler now. And that's why travel advisors are more popular than ever. And most people think it's only popular with people who are not technology savvy. And probably for the last 5 years, the statistic has shown that the millennial and the Gen Xers use travel advisors more often than any other generation. And believe me, they know technology. They're doing it because they want the best possible experience in that 7 days that they have off, that 1 week that they have off.
Well, and they have grown up with an iPhone in their hand, right? Where we kind of had to adopt these things over time. So it's a little bit more free-flowing, I think, for a younger crowd to look at this as just a natural progression as you roll through. But, you brought up something interesting, and I look at it and think it's an acceleration point, which is that is exactly what COVID highlighted was the non-travel advisor vacation, right? And, I know, again, my wife had started her travel advisor in October of 2019. No better time to launch than 3 months before the world shut down. But the amount of business and clients that she was able to pick up because people didn't know how to deal with it, and it was a very confusing time, and you had all these rules and regulations around who got refunds, who got credits, what was the airline doing, the rolling timelines, right? So I kind of look at that and think that was kind of a painful journey that provided exactly what you just said. I think that has helped put the travel advisor square in the crosshairs.
And not just as the problem solver, but also they realized this travel advisor does a lot more than putting the pieces together. This advisor really, it starts from the beginning in that consultative process, right? Because anybody can book a cruise, but you don't know that on that ship, you want to be midship. You don't know that unless you've experienced it, right? Like they eat, sleep, drink, travel. Scott, what your wife, Michelle, spends a lot of time traveling herself so she can have firsthand experience with these different resorts and destinations and locations. And she's part of through TPI because we have about 5,800 small business owners that are partnered with us. And then also through our franchise as well, she's got other people. If she hasn't been to, Portugal, she's got 10 other people that she can talk to that she trusts that has 10 other advisors that understand the questions that she's asking and the needs of the consumer that she can tap into. And you can't Google that. I'm sorry. You don't trust it. I mean, you can't trust reviews. You just can't trust reviews that are on a resort's website. Do you know what I mean? Like I was just at a conference called Focusrite, and Focusrite is very high tech, conference, and all the OTAs, online travel agencies, are there. Priceline, Expedia, all of them were there. And they all sat there on stage and said, we were talking about AI, and they were like, well, AI, is it going to replace you as an online travel agency? Or AI, is it going to replace the travel advisor? And all the OTAs kept saying the same thing. Here's the thing: consumers do not trust what the AI engine is sending back to them, as they're not trusting it so much that they're willing to put $50,000 behind that answer. They were like, we don't know what to do. They still want a human interaction. They want to talk to a human. They want to have, they want to get advice and expertise from someone who's been there, done that. We just don't know what to do as an online travel agent. And I'm like screaming from the audience, it's called a travel advisor, ding dong. That is what it is. That's like when you do your taxes on your own, you can only go so far. And then once you start adding components, you need to hire a professional. Just putting my money in my savings account is only going to get me so far. At some point, I need to hire a professional to do it with me.
That's absolutely true. And think about, queuing up ChatGPT when your flights are delayed, or, heaven forbid, the airspace is shut down. What's the answer going to be? It's not going to give you.
Yeah. Well, and it's also not going to send you an update. There's a story a friend of mine had where he booked everything on his own, even though his mother told him he should use her travel advisor, and the ferry in Greece was canceled. Well, the ferry didn't. He booked it online. They didn't send a notification, so he and the wife got dropped off by the Uber out in the middle of nowhere in Greece. 30 minutes before the ferry, and the ferry never showed up, and now they're stuck out there. Like, they didn't know what to do. Well, that's because a travel advisor would have known that it was canceled, right? Or would have reconfirmed or what have you. And so he was like, oh my goodness, I will never travel again without utilizing a travel advisor, without hiring somebody who's also paying attention to what my needs are, and foreseeing some potential pitfalls along the way.
Well, and I think that brings up a great subject too, because I'm probably guilty of some of these myself. But what would you say are the biggest misconceptions about the travel advisor?
That it's always going to cost you more money, that you're getting cheated from the price. The other misconception is that it's more of they don't have access to anything I don't have access to. So why would I pay more money for something I can just do myself? It goes back to the misconception of what money brings. So when we say hire a travel advisor, most cases when you're curating an experience, a travel advisor is going to charge a fee of some sort, a consulting fee or a planning fee or a design fee. They're going to charge some, or a cancellation if you cancel. They do all this work because advisors, what most people don't realize is they don't get paid unless you book through them or you utilize them and you travel. If a travel advisor books something, we're in, the beginning of the year. If they book something at the beginning of the year and you don't travel until December, they're not getting paid for that work until December, until you travel. So the consumer, and that's not the consumer's fault for not knowing this, but the consumer doesn't understand how a travel advisor is compensated. And that's something on our industry. Our industry needs to talk about this is how it works. And they go into it knowing that, but it's like you can't just call and say, let me pick your brain. It's kind of like going into a dentist and saying, listen, can you just do some x-rays, check out my fillings and do it? Now, I don't want to pay you for it, but you just tell me, is this something that I need to, invest in later on? You can't do that. So the biggest misconception that it's going to cost them more money, chances are in the long run, it saves you a ton of money and time. And time is money, and frustration. Frustration is money, and you're going to get the best value for what you're really trying to accomplish. There's a saying out there, it's really expensive to go on a cheap vacation, just as it costs a lot of money to be poor. Because it costs a lot of money to be poor because you're not saving money. And so you have to spend more money to get the same thing that the guy next to you can get at a 6% interest. But because you have bad credit, it's 11% interest. So it costs a lot of money to be poor, and it's very expensive to take a cheap vacation. And it's the same in many ways. You buy a car that's only going to last you a few years because you only had $1,500 to spend on it. guess what? You're going to spend $3,000 trying to keep it fixed. You should have just paid $5,000 for a better car,
Right, but
Well,
those are all things you learn in hindsight. Looking
right.
back, you're like, oh shoot.
Well, again,
Yeah.
and the end client is, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, they've been conditioned to this, right? My
Yes.
favorite is you go and my wife will go out and she'll book out a trip for somebody and they'll go to Costco.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, I saw it cheaper. And it's like, read the fine print.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
it's an interior cabin on the second deck with no
Right.
window.
Yeah.
And it's a great deal. But by the time you upgrade that trip to the same exact experience, it's significantly more expensive. But it's
Or
the
even
marketing, it's the marketing piece. How do you guys combat that?
right. It's hard, Scott. It's hard. The way people combat it is a lot of those questions ahead of time. Somebody who somehow or another is connected with an advisor kind of intuitively knows there's a reason I was told to call this person, right? If an advisor promotes and markets themselves as get the best deal through me, well, you're going to get shopped because you just told them that it's going to be the best deal. So, of course, I'm going to shop around to make sure it's the best deal. But if they're marketing themselves as, listen, you got 10 days this year to go on vacation. We want to make sure those 10 days you get the most value out of that 10 days. That's not necessarily the cheapest trip. That's ensuring that you're hitting everything that you want to do during that 10 days because you can't get those 10 days back. $5,000 on a really crappy vacation is still $5,000. If you spent $7,500 and you had the most amazing vacation, you'd be willing to pay $12,000 for that same vacation. And because once you spend it, you've spent it. It's either you enjoyed what you spent, like you appreciated that you spent it, or you're really irritated that you spent it. But Scott, a lot of times advisors, let's talk money for a moment because it's a reality. A lot of times advisors have better deals than Costco. A lot of times they have access to space and inventory, especially on cruises, that because they're a host agency like myself at TPI, we took out that space 2.5 years ago when the price was, let's just say $1,500 for that cabin. And now the going rate is $2,700. Well, Costco's got it at $2,700. Maybe they've got it down to 22, but Michelle and the travel advisor have it at 1,500. So there really are real savings that are out there when you partner with an advisor who has exclusives, who has negotiated better opportunities, onboard credits or spa credits. I know with TPI, we're partnered with a consortia. So our advisors not only get whatever we negotiate at the TPI level, they also get to take advantage of what the partner, the travel brand, has got out there and what the consortia. So they get to tap into 3 different areas. The consumer only has access to one, which is the partner, the travel partner direct. So why wouldn't you? Also, your commission's built into the price automatically. So if you're paying $1,700, it's because the cruise line has already factored in case a travel advisor sells that cabin, they've already factored in that commission. So you're paying more without getting the service. So I think it's an education thing, Scott. It's a relationship thing. Can I invest my own money? Sure. Do I know if I'm doing a good job doing it? Hell no. I have no clue if I'm doing it right.
There's that tricky relationship word again.
Right.
The other one you said,
yeah, that
Jen,
darn relationship word.
the one that you nailed, though, that is certainly a direct correlation between our businesses is the value proposition.
Yeah.
What do you get by working with me, right? And it's not always a basic thing, right? There's a lot more qualitative that goes into that.
Well, and I would think being the trusted advisor across industries, obviously word of mouth is going to be a huge component of growing your business.
And it's the story through that word of mouth, Jason, right? So in your industry, I'm sure when people are at a cocktail party and someone says, hey, listen, I'm looking for a new, financial partner. I'm not really happy with my current one. Somebody's going to say, what aren't you happy about? Well, I never hear from this person, or I'm not getting the return that I thought I was going to get. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 things that come up over and over again. It's probably a relationship, right? I never hear from them. They don't seem to listen. I'm getting a canned email. It's a disconnect of what the relationship's supposed to be like. In the travel business, what happens is when people love their travel advisor, that's all they do. They can't shut up about them. Like, you got to call my travel advisor. Just like my hair. you know how many people I've sent to my hairdresser because I look cute and she does a great job. And people go, I like your hair. And I'm like, well, then you got to call my girl Rachel. Right. So it's that story, how that makes me feel when I get to refer somebody, because honestly, customers want to help people who've helped them that are part of their story. So when people say, I don't like to ask for referrals or reviews, I'm like, shame on you, because the other person is looking for someone who had that same experience. With reviews, and I'm sure it's like this in financial services. Hey, I didn't save the first dime until I was 47 years old, and I was embarrassed to walk into my financial services office. But my financial advisor didn't make me feel bad about not saving a dime until I was 47. Instead, they said, let's get to work. Let's figure this out together. We're going to put together a plan. That was a story that also resonates with how many other 47-year-olds who have not started a savings plan, who haven't invested the first dime. When you use that as a review, when you say, this person did not make me feel less than, even though I felt less than and embarrassed that I walked in with, $40,000 max. And I was like, what can you do with this? How can you help me, still retire at 65? The good financial advisor says, we got you. We'll figure this out together. Might have to tighten your belt somewhere. We're coming up with a plan. Same thing with a travel advisor. When a family says, I have two teenagers that don't get along, and one likes to be on their phone all day long, and the other one likes to climb trees. My husband likes mountains, and I like the beach. Put together a trip for me. Well, a good travel advisor knows how to curate something that's gonna make everybody happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I think about it, the one thing that's interesting is a lot of the reviews and the word of mouth spread for any of the advisors in the field likely comes. I wonder if it increases. You probably have statistics on this when something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Just having that voice to talk to and that human to talk to on the phone to find a solution.
Yeah. It's a slippery slope, because we certainly don't want advisors to be positioned as just the heroes saving the day, because that's just a small component. If it's curated right, if it's crafted right, if it's done with resorts that we know are going to still be open by the time somebody gets there, like that's another thing. You read a review, there's no review that says it's closed because nobody's there. Right. So like you're on there thinking you're going to, you don't know that it's under construction, or that you don't know what they consider ocean view is, that you look out your balcony and you have to crick your neck all the way to the left and look past the palm tree. You don't know that when you're looking at it online. So it's really where their value proposition comes to play, is that expertise, that knowledge of that very specific destination or resort, in combination with what it is that you're trying to accomplish on your vacation. By golly, we're trying to accomplish something. We either want to disconnect, we want to relax, we want to rejuvenate, we want to try something new, we want to eat something new, we want to meet somebody, we want to go see where the Bad News Bears was filmed, we want to go to where Game and Throw. Like, we've got a reason that we want to leave our house. We have a reason. And so that's where the advisor really, plays a role. And honestly, that's why that's why advisors and financial advisors work together, because the financial advisor is the person that's trusted by the customer with their money to do the absolute best with it based on their long-term and short-term goals. And the travel advisor is doing the same thing. They do the exact same thing. Right. And working together, you get to say, hey, on my 50th birthday, I want to be able to afford to go on a 3-week cruise. How can we do that? Right? Or when I retire.
Nothing worse than showing up to Wally World and it's closed.
You got that right. Clark did not hire an advisor.
What a perfect tie-in.
Exactly. I don't know. I get really excited about this. I love what y'all do, because you enhance people's lives. You extend their lives, their financial life. You extend the value of their life by helping them create something they can look forward to. Somebody said there's a statistic out that says the anticipation of the vacation is the most exciting part of the vacation. Anticipation. So if you're planning it on your own and you're stressed, you've missed the most exciting part of the vacation. You've completely walked right past it.
I think that's a really good point and really good
Well,
selling
the
point
ability
for,
to be present, right? How many people aren't present in their daily lives, and then they just take that with them on vacation?
Yeah. Right. Well, because they're also having to solve the problem for the whole family. Imagine you're the planner of the family. When does the planner get to go on vacation?
well, and that's the thing. Once you're on vacation, you're trying to keep everyone else on the plan that you created.
Right.
So you're stressed all through vacation.
Right.
You know,
And they're blaming you.
you've probably heard the adage, and I've been guilty of saying it in the past, where you come back from vacation, you're like, oh, I need a vacation from vacation.
Listen, going to Disney World, and I live in Orlando, going to Disney World in the summertime, all of us that live in Orlando, we're like screaming at people going, why are you here? It is the most stressful time to go to Disney is in the summertime. And they bring like little babies, but they envision this is my child is going to love it. What you don't realize is your child is going to be suffocating because it's so bloody hot down here in Orlando during the summertime. And you're going to wait an hour and a half in line to get on that ride. What is it you're really trying to do with your child? If you're really trying to have a family vacation where you're creating memories, maybe when they're 2 years old is not the best time to visit Disney. Sorry, Disney. Sorry about that, babe. But maybe it's SeaWorld where it's less lines and you get a chance to touch animals and it's more tactile and it's cooler.
And you also know, all right, you guys have this in there for Disney, but if you are not 6 to 8 months out on your Disney vacation,
Oh, yeah.
you are not going to have an enjoyable experience at Disney, right? Everyone that I've talked to recently or the last couple of years, oh, it was terrible. It was busy. It was lines we couldn't get. I'm like, when did you book the trip? They're like, last month.
Yeah.
I'm like, everybody else booked it a year ago.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, 100%. And Scott, you might not even be able to eat because now they've got an app where you can't even get you can't eat. You got to go back to your hotel to eat or pack a sandwich. Yeah. And it's expensive to go to Disney. Sorry, Disney. I love you. We appreciate all the tourists that come to Florida. You help us not have sales, property or income tax, state income tax. But oh my goodness, I just want to yell at them and go, bring them back when they're 7 or 8 years old and they can remember it.
And you brought up SeaWorld. The biggest surprise for me at SeaWorld was the Budweiser Clydesdales.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just awesome animals. And then the Dalmatians there too. But that was
you got to go to Busch Gardens, Jason. That's where they have the beer garden too. So you can have yourself a beer while you're watching the Clydesdales.
That is on the list. I hear Busch Gardens is amazing. So
it is. It is. There's a lot of little places. Our national parks are probably the place most underestimated place in our country are the national parks.
We are home to the least visited national park in the country.
Isle Royale, I believe.
That is correct.
I don't even think I've even heard of it. Where really?
They only have 12 wolves apparently that live there. It is in the UP, which is the northernmost point of Michigan, which is actually extension of Wisconsin. So getting there is a bit of a challenge. Obviously, seasonally, no one's going to the Isle Royale State Park right now.
National Park. Isle Royale National Park.
Sorry.
The National Park. Well, I want to go now. I want to see those 12 wolves. They're probably named.
If you love the outdoors and nature, northern Michigan, again, it could be one of the most unknown places to visit. It is kind of remote, but you can get up into Pictured Rocks. There's just a lot of history, but the vistas and the ability to see wildlife is second to none.
Well, I think you have to fly in. That's the biggest problem.
It is a challenge to get there.
Yep.
Yeah, but once you get there, you want to look how quiet and how serene and grounding it must be.
That would be the perfect destination for those that want to be off devices, incommunicado.
Mm-hmm.
Old school, writing a song or a book, isolated.
Yeah. Yeah, it saved my marriage going to a national park. My husband and I had a very rocky 10th year of our marriage, 12th year of our marriage. And we went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we spent the entire time getting up at 5 a.m., packing up our little Subaru and driving into Teton National Park. And because we both disconnected 100%, it saved our marriage. And it was only 5 days.
Amazing.
We didn't have to do a lot. Just had to be together.
That's incredible too. And I mean, that's kind of the healing nature of nature, just being outside.
Yeah.
Well, I think, we've spent enough of your time here, but one thing I wanted to get into is our rapid fire questions. Are you ready for it?
Buckled up, ready to rock and roll. Let's do it.
All right, Scott, you can start with one of the hard-hitting questions.
I will, and I'm going to throw the first question out to our number one Delta fan, Jenn Lee. Window seat or aisle?
Aisle. I need to control my bathroom regime.
100%. We are 100% in agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can charge a premium for just the aisle.
3C.
Absolutely.
And Scott, it's 3C. I'm always in 3C. Because I'm a Delta Diamond multi-million miler, so I'm upgraded all the time. My seat is 3C. That's the sweet spot for me on the right side of the plane.
I am going to put a Jenn Lee name sticker on the next 3C seat I see on the back.
Well,
I'm
The
sure
property
I'll
of
see it.
Jenn Lee.
I'm sure
Property of Jenn Lee.
Delta has it in their notes. They probably
Oh, yeah.
know you just want 3C.
That's exactly right. My travel advisor knows it. She always assigns my seat.
Well, this one I think will be good because we just got into it. Would be one destination everyone overrates.
Orlando. I feel so bad because I live here. Orlando. It's just a nightmare. It's busy for no apparent reason. Epcot helps you experience the world, but the world is out there. So to me, Orlando. I'm sorry, Orlando. I love you.
All
I
right.
still live here.
One destination that surpasses expectations, right, for first timers.
Can I choose a travel style instead of a destination? Because I think destinations, to me, you know what I've heard over and over, 99.872% of the time is when somebody goes on a cruise for the very first time, if they've gone on the right cruise, they're obsessed with cruising. It surprises them how much they like it. I would say the second is probably a national park of some sort. I think it surprises them how grounding it can be, how calming it can be, how curious. We went to Jackson Hole, and there wasn't a boring moment. There just wasn't a boring moment. And you're just thinking, how many times do I need to look at a tree? It was a variety of different trees, buffalo, moose. Yeah, very surprising.
Luxury hotel or boutique local?
I'm bougie. I need to make sure I got room service, and I need to know I'm bougie. It's going to be the luxury hotel. Boutique, I might not like the sheets. And who am I going to call? No, it's got to be a luxury hotel. Name brand.
All right. Best travel investment recommendation. Time, money, or flexibility?
Ooh, time. Give yourself time to really settle in. Make enough time to settle into where you are. Try not to jam too much into that time.
All right, and we'll end it with, if someone is planning a truly meaningful trip in the next 5 years, what's the one piece of advice they should not ignore?
Whatever their travel advisor tells them to do. They should not ignore when someone says spend the money. If someone says spend the money, spend the money. Just spend the money, because once it's spent, you don't remember that you spent it. It's gone. And the memories are what you remember. You don't remember that it depleted that one savings account. Not deplete. We don't want you to deplete your money, obviously. We want you to be comfortable in your money, but spend the money. Spend the money. Do it right.
It goes back to what you said earlier, right? It's just a matter of, it's not about things. It's about experiences. You're not going to get to the end of your life and say, I wish I bought more stuff.
Right.
I'm glad I got to see, I got to experience, I got to do this with people, in my life, not just on their own.
Yeah, and if somebody says, my husband is a bit of he's not a nervous traveler because he travels quite a bit, but he's one like, oh, I don't want to go to the Galapagos. Oh, I don't want to do Antarctica. Well, first off, I'll just do it without you, okay? Because
I'll
I'm
go
not
with
gonna.
you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Because I'll do it. But it's like you're making assumptions of things that you don't know to be true. And when I ask them, why do you not want to go? Well, I mean, I don't want to look at, but you don't know. Like, so don't ignore the person that says, I know you, I know what you like, and I'm telling you, you'll like this. I'm telling you, if you can't convince them through facts, trust the people who know you, who understand you, who take the time to understand you, and take their advice. Because, with the exception of going to Disney in August with your 2-year-old, most trips you can get something really valuable out of it if you've curated and crafted it right and with a professional who knows what they're doing. It's not about the money, it's all about the experience. You'll always remember the experience. You'll forget that you spent the money.
It just might be painful for a while. That's where the parallels with the financial advisors ends, right? Don't spend all the money.
Yeah, well, my financial advisor, she's super great. She told us, she goes, I'm going to take the X number of money out every single month. And at first, when she told me the number, I'm like, I've got Louis Vuitton purses to buy. This is really going to cut into my bouginess. But she takes it out. I already know it's gone. I forget that it's gone. And when I get my statement from her, I see it over here growing. Now it gets me excited. Now I'm cool with her taking that money out because once it's gone, it's gone. You're always going to make more money unless you're not making money because you're retired and you didn't work with somebody who brings you money. But it's like, it's gone. Make more and enjoy your life.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I want to leave for this conversation too is what if somebody's looking at planning a trip and they either don't know of a travel advisor around them or haven't thought about asking one? What would you say? Where can they find information either from TPI's website of who would be a suitable person for them to call?
So on the TPI side, we don't have a directory or anything, but you are welcome to, I would say there's a couple of resources. From our franchise side, we have a directory. So you can just go to vacationplanners.com and you can find somebody. I would also utilize asta.org, ASTA.org. And actually there's a website that we should put in the show notes. And then now, of course, the name of it's the Verified Travel Advisor website, which is advisors who really take their business very seriously have to go through certifications. And I think it's Verify. I can't remember. If you can just look that up for me. There's a website where you can connect with an advisor who has gone through those certifications, who understands the legalities, that has your financial, fiduciary responsibility. It's got the terms and conditions, doing everything above board. That's a great place. It's almost like the Good Housekeeping seal of approval in the travel advisor world. Go to asta.org, ASTA.org, and I'm sure they've got a link there for you.
Excellent.
And then and with TPI, and maybe just Google Travel Planners International Advisor near me. Find somebody local. They're probably right there, down the street, at the dining room table, working their tails off, helping people travel the world.
That's right. It's not the little store on the corner with just pamphlets on pamphlets anymore.
No, not any longer. I miss that. I want that to come back.
So, well, Jen, this was an amazing conversation, and thank you for enlightening us on the role of the travel advisor and where they fit into your planning, and really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you guys, and you're doing great work out there. I love listening to your podcast, and it's an honor to be part of it.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks for coming on board, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.